Hello Wolves fans and welcome back to the Wolves Fancast YouTube channel for another GTA Fancast with me, Gully. I'm pleased to be reporting on a Wolves victory, the first Premier League win under Bruno Lage, first goals that we scored under him as well, and that's where we're going to be focusing today, how we took advantage of a short corner routine, amazingly, and also the variety of attacking options that led to us taking a few different approaches to breaking Watford down and eventually getting that second goal. So we'll start with the first goal, and I'll be honest, I really don't understand the disdain that Wolves fans seem to have for short corners. Now, what I've seen since Bruno took charge from our approach is that we seem to change it up pretty much every single time we take a corner, which is good to have a bit of variety about it. Seemingly frustrating for people who just want us to lump it into the box. But if I just deal with how difficult and how kind of false an economy it is to have a corner as a presentable goal scoring opportunity. There was a corner that Wolves had very pretty much immediately before we scored the goal. And if you have a look at this still here, this is what was facing Moutinho as he lined up to take it. Now, what ended up happening was Real made a nice run across the front post and flicked it on. And to be fair, it was probably as good as we could hope for in terms of it put the ball into a dangerous situation. But Watford, with numbers back, strung across that 6-yard box, were able to clear the ball. Now, really, from a corner, the ideal kind of spot that you want to be hitting is just in front of that 6-yard box, or maybe in line with the 6-yard box at a height that you would consider flat. Now, the trouble with most corner takers is that that's a very hard spot to hit on a consistent basis, and then it's easy to look really bad when the first man just comes out and clears the ball away. But for the most part, I think Moutinho's not too bad. He does change it up sometimes and dink one in towards the back post as well. But I want to talk about why it makes so much sense to just play that short corner, because if you have a look at the moment that Moutinho plays the ball and then we shift our focus onto when Marcel receives it, again, you've got that kind of overload of Watford players in the box, and really you're hoping for someone getting a run on their man, or a bit of bad defending almost to actually score from a corner, which is why teams are generally quite disappointed when they do manage to concede. But when we shift the ball towards Marcel, you'll see the picture change slightly now. The first thing I noticed is the guy that's on the front post, who will be there for that flat corner and able to clear away before anybody comes and makes a run across the near post. He's actually come out and come towards the ball, as any defence would. They've pushed out a little bit as a defensive line and created what I would say an easier opportunity for someone to get the ball in behind that first man. So that's tick box number one complete. He's not as much of an obstacle to beat than he would have been if Moutinho had just played the ball in off the quadrant. If you also have a look here, what we've ended up creating as well is as players have come out towards Marcel to close him down, a lot of their defenders have kind of not been attracted to him, but almost subconsciously just made movements towards the play rather than pushing out. They've almost come out towards the edge of the box a little bit, towards our left-hand side, just because the ball's there, I suppose. It's probably a subconscious thing that they've done. But then you look at the back post, and those players that would have been marked up originally, all of a sudden, there's a flood of white shirts who, if the ball is right, can easily go and overpower probably the one or two players that are at the back post from a standing start, who will have a disadvantage straight away because we've got players running onto them to actually go and overpower them and win a header. Now, what happens is obviously the ball goes into a decent area, to be fair to Marcel. He picks a nice delivery out, but Sierrata gets it all wrong. What I would say is that goal simply does not happen if we don't take the option of playing it short. I want to just point out another one where the first goal against Nottingham Forest was a similar situation where we were knocking on the door, it was 0-0, and we get the ball out to Kiana Herva, and as you can see from this still as well, it just looks like a much more presentable crossing opportunity. If you was to take a cross from open play, you wouldn't run towards the corner flag and then try and cross the ball. What you would do is probably try and find the byline, obviously closer in towards goal, and also that kind of angle from where you're just outside the 18-yard box and you can whip a ball in the way that Hervé did for Sace to score against Nottingham Forest. So if you can take one thing from this video, guys, just please don't hate on short corners. Now for the real fun, and this is what really excites me about this Bruno team. We have simply got the best array of attacking talent, with Neto injured and to come back as well, that we've probably had at the club ever, since I've been a Wolves fan anyway. So you think about the fact that we had either side of Jimenez, Traore, Trincao, Hwang Hee-Chan and Daniel Podence all coming into the game and all having an impact. Now, we'll start with the starters. Obviously, Trincao and Traore have played every game from the start so far this season. Trincao getting better and better with every single game. Traore, blistering start to the season. Unfortunate, should have done better with a few chances really at this point and be on a couple of goals, but also just playing out of his skin. And them two, I would say, are the real ball carriers within the team at the moment. When you compare them to Hwang and Podence, who I'll speak about later, they look to play from a little bit deeper. And as you can see from our take on map, they're responsible for a lot of the work, the good work that goes in to beating people and opening up space around Jimenez and creating all that chaos that we like to see. Traore actually in this game did a lot of his work out wide. I think they kind of realised and made a change at half time to then accommodate him on the right hand side instead of playing on the left, because he was getting shunted in towards a lot of traffic and unable to really affect the game. Still able to take people on at will, just because that's what he does anyway, but didn't really necessarily have the impact that he would have liked to. But Trincao, I think, really showed his mettle, because he picks up better positions than Traore does in between the lines. He hasn't got that blistering pace, but he drifts away people really, really nicely. And he almost creates more havoc just because they don't really know how to deal with him at the moment. Obviously, he's coming in on his left-hand side, but he seems kind of capable of going either way. And he's a little bit more unpredictable in the sense that, Traore, once he gets the ball to his feet, he's just going to try and take you on. Trincao has a little bit more subtlety to his game. He will combine with his teammates and things, and unfortunate with a shot from the edge of the box, and really, really nicely worked from a deeper area to find Semedo in a one-on-one towards the end of the first half as well, and which showed strength to hold off a couple of challenges, and then the composure to pick out that pass. Coming back to Traore in the second half, once he moved up to that right hand side, you can see in this still here that he's holding a really wide position. And if I take it to the board here, you can see it was Danny Rose out on that left hand flank. He's always going to attract people to him, and as I've spoken about before, when you're playing with a back four, you can easily create those gaps between full back and centre half. Now, because we have a wing back who's able to get up and down the pitch, we have an extra player out here who's able to take advantage of those spaces. When the ball comes into Jimenez, pretty lazy marking from Cucho Hernandez, it was who was meant to be tracking Semedo, but straight away, Danny Rose doesn't want to necessarily allow the ball to come out to Traore for fear of him getting a cross in, so isn't able to cut out that channel, and Semedo gets in, has another one-on-one, and again, should have probably scored, but those two really showed their virtues in terms of offering us some different elements to the play to try and break down Watford. Now, we obviously made changes for initially Hwang coming on to replace Trincao. Now, Hwang is a different prospect physically, clearly, as we've seen, and we'll get to know him better as a player, obviously, when he plays more. But I think the bottom line that I took from this was, and the only still I can really show to prove this, is the fact that he scored from a yard out. I don't think I recall Trincao or Traore really being in with a sniff of goal, even Jimenez, within the 6-yard box or around the penalty spot, even with a cross coming in to actually take advantage of it. But Hwang was straight in there, right under the keeper's nose, and has that instinct clearly to go and sniff out opportunities that maybe the other players don't instinctively know how to do. So it's good to have that extra bit of variety. And we've spoken about how the forwards need to pick up their goal scoring numbers as well. he's won on his debut. It's a great start, and it looks likely that he will probably be that player who can offer us a little bit more in the penalty area. Now moving on to Pedence, and I feel personally that this is as good as a kind of reinvigoration for the squad that we could have had for a player that was already part of the team, missed the large chunks of the season through injury. But what I really like about Pedence is his ability to go and receive the ball in and around the box. His movement is exceptional. He has that low centre of gravity and that sharp movement away from people. He's not going to sprint away from you 30 yards, but that 5-10 yards, when the ball is, a team is pinned into towards their own penalty area, he's the guy that can make a difference. I think we saw it against Nottingham Forest, where if you have a look at this scenario, he was able to spin in behind a defender. Because he is so sharp over that first 5 yards, you simply can't keep up with him. As long as you play the ball at the right time, he's going to find himself in space. On this occasion, he actually hit the post. And then if you look at the second goal that we scored against Watford, Semedo has the ball out on the flank, and Pedence just picks up that nice little pocket where a defender doesn't really want to go too tight to him because the fear of fouling and giving away a penalty is there. But he also receives the ball in good time as well. I think it's really important to make sure you play the pass at the right time. If Semedo let's hold on to the ball for a couple of seconds too long, then the player might get too tight without potentially receiving the ball, and then the chance is gone. But he plays at the right moment. He's able to jink his way into a position to cross, and eventually we'll get that second goal. The fact that we can chop and change and tailor our approach to the needs of the game, pretty much probably at will. You might even argue that if we saw Hwang and Pedence start against Brentford, just as an example, hypothetically, if that's what Bruno thought was the way to go about beating Brentford, you're actually quite comfortable with it, despite how good Traore and Trincao have been. But the best thing about it is just that we have the options. A bit of a Swiss Army knife of an attack, which is quite mouth-watering prospect, to be honest. And I'm really looking forward to some more Bruno ball on Saturday against Brentford.